Now I will recognize Mr. Mark Green from the wonderful state of Tennessee.
Thank you, Chairwoman Salazar, and I thank Ranking Member Castro for holding this hearing. I want to thank you to our witnesses for being here today. If you thought COVID-19 was the deadliest disease to come from China, think again. Authoritarianism is far deadlier disease. Having killed hundreds of millions of people throughout history, and like COVID-19, it's highly contagious. I've spoken before the full committee about how the CCP's censorship regime has made its way to the United States through Hollywood, and even Biden's Defense Department agrees with me on that. Now we're faced with a much bolder and a far more dangerous case of authoritarianism infecting Latin America. The Chinese Communist Party has made it no secret that it's willing to export a particularly insidious strand of authoritarianism across the globe, and its preferred method is the Belt and Road Initiative. Using this initiative, the CCP is rapidly and aggressively spreading its malign influence in Latin America and the Caribbean. Not only does it allow the CCP to extend its dictatorial reach and plunge vulnerable countries into virtual indentured servitude, but it's also squeezing Taiwan out of the region. 26 of the 33 countries in the region now have diplomatic ties with China and have severed their relationship with Taiwan. Many of these same countries have military and security agreements with China, posing such a high risk that Southcom has concluded that the CCP now has not only the intent, but also the capability, and I quote, to eschew international norms, advance its brand of authoritarianism, and amass power, influence, and expense of the existing and emerging democracies in our hemisphere, end quote. The situation is no longer a mere future threat to the United States. It's a reality that we are now living with. It is China that is largely responsible for trafficking fentanyl coming into our country through the southern border. It is China that is sourcing Mexican cartels with the precursor chemicals that kill tens of thousands of Americans every year. It is China that is exploiting the unstable countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, and it is the same brand of CCP authoritarianism that is causing the mass illegal migrations into the United States in the first place. We cannot talk about the crisis at our southern border and the crisis of the leading source of death for American adults aged 18 to 45 without talking about the CCP's involvement. If we continue to ignore our allies in Latin America and the Caribbean, we will fully cede control of the region to a communist dictator, and more American lives will be at risk. The first phase of ensuring America's interests in the region are identical to the first phase of the CCP's involvement in the region, and that is economic engagement. China used predatory economic engagement to set itself up in the region, but we can combat it by genuinely investing in our partners and seeking mutual benefits. And that is why I introduced my nearshoring bill, which accomplishes three things. First, it pushes the CCP out of the region by re-engaging with our partners. Second, it rebuilds diplomatic ties and establishes regional stability, key prerequisites for prosperity. Third, it builds Latin American and Caribbean economies, provides job opportunities, thereby reducing mass migrations that overwhelm our southern border. And I'll just thank Secretary Blinken for actually his team helping me write that bill. China's growing influence in the region is good news for no one. China has and will continue to destabilize the region, keep these countries from becoming prosperous and independent, and turn them against the interests of the United States. We must not allow the CCP to continue its malign activities. To ignore our partners in the hemisphere is to ignore the critical realities that threaten our national security. Without quick and decisive action, the CCP brand of authoritarianism will metastasize. My first question is for Ms. Hannon. Have there been any attempts by the State Department to engage China regarding its supply of fentanyl precursors into the region? And if not, why?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Green. We have had successful cooperation with the PRC on counter-narcotics in the past, but we do need them to do more to disrupt illicit drug supply chains. You know, we approach the problem of fentanyl from several channels, including sanctions, which attack the cartels, like the Sinaloa cartel.
I mean, we're back. I get the cartel piece, but has the CCP given you one piece of information or one piece of evidence that show they have decreased the flow from China to the Latin American area? I mean, the price of fentanyl on the street now is 1/3 what it was when Biden came into office.
Yeah, so Secretary Blinken actually launched the global coalition at the UN General Assembly last week, which has over 50 countries working globally to address illicit drugs, including fentanyl. We have engaged heavily diplomatically with the PRC. We have worked with them both at the diplomatic level, but also to address things like
I get the engagement. Have they done one thing, given you one piece of information, helped in one way
They
that
have-
has decreased the flow of fentanyl?
Well, I mean, I can't say the direct impact of a PRC action to decrease fentanyl, but I can say that we are partnering with them to address standards, customer recognition, manufacturing, labeling, and but they absolutely can do more. This is an absolute scourge, and the PRC has a role that needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that last part. That's important admission. Thank you.